Diamonds and Toads. In a quiet village surrounded by old oak trees lived a girl named Rose. She spent her days sweeping floors and washing clothes, while her older sister Fanny rested in the shade. Even though her hands were calloused and her dress was patched, Rose never lost her gentle smile. She found tiny moments of joy in the sunlight and the singing birds. The summer heat was heavy, and the house water jug was empty. Their mother pointed a sharp finger at Rose, commanding her to fetch fresh water from the fairy well deep in the woods. It was a long, tiring walk, but Rose did not complain. She picked up the heavy wooden bucket, gave a small sigh, and began her journey into the forest. The forest was cool and quiet, filled with the golden light of the late afternoon sun. Rose finally reached the stone well, covered in soft green moss. She attached her wooden bucket to the old rope and lowered it into the dark water. As she pulled it back up, a gentle rustling sound came from the bushes just behind the ancient stones. Out of the shadows stepped a frail old woman, leaning heavily on her wooden staff. She looked terribly tired and asked Rose for a single sip of water. Without hesitating, Rose smiled warmly. She rinsed her wooden cup, filled it to the brim with the freshest water from the well, and gently offered it to the stranger. As the woman finished drinking, a soft, magical light wrapped around her. Her grey cloak faded away, revealing a beautiful fairy in a shimmering teal gown. Touched by Rose's pure heart, the fairy gave her a special gift. From that day on, whenever Rose spoke a word, a beautiful flower or a precious gem would fall from her lips. Rose hurried back to the cottage, carrying the heavy bucket. Her mother immediately started yelling at her for taking so long. But as Rose opened her mouth to apologize, something incredible happened.
I am so sorry.
With her very first word, 2 perfect red roses and 3 shiny diamonds tumbled from her lips, bouncing lightly onto the wooden floor. The mother was amazed by the shiny jewels. She immediately called for her favorite daughter, Fanny, and told her to go to the well to get the exact same gift. Fanny whined and stamped her foot. She hated working, but the promise of endless diamonds was too much for her greedy heart to resist. Fanny finally arrived at the mossy forest well, complaining the entire way. Just as she filled her silver pitcher, a tired old woman stepped out from the trees and asked for a small drink. But Fanny sneered. She loudly refused to share her water, telling the poor woman to fetch it herself. The old woman stood up straight, and the dusty grey cloak melted away. The magical fairy appeared once again, looking deeply disappointed. Because Fanny had shown no kindness and kept her water to herself, the fairy gave her a very different gift. From now on, her harsh words would create slimy toads. Fanny stomped back to the cottage, complaining about the terrible old woman in the forest. Her mother rushed forward, expecting a shower of glittering diamonds. But the moment Fanny opened her mouth to complain, a large, slimy green toad jumped out, landing right on her mother's expensive shoes. The warm house filled with terrified screams. Furious and terrified, the mother unjustly blamed poor Rose for this terrible magic. She shouted cruelly, banishing her youngest daughter from the only home she had ever known. Heartbroken but calm, Rose packed a small cloth bundle and walked out into the fading evening light, leaving her angry family behind forever. Rose wandered deep into the peaceful woods as the sun began to set, casting long golden shadows across the path. She sat on a fallen log to keep herself brave. Her sweet voice caught the attention of Prince Leo, a kind young man who was traveling home. Intrigued, he followed the beautiful sound through the trees. The gentle prince stepped closer, asking the lonely girl why she was crying in the dark woods. Surprised by his sudden appearance, Rose wiped her tears and politely answered him. As she spoke her very first word, 2 shimmering diamonds and a beautiful red rose tumbled from her lips, glowing softly in the twilight. Realizing she was speaking to a prince, Rose told him the whole story about the fairy, the old stone well, and her cruel mother. Leo listened closely. He was completely enchanted, not by the magical jewels, but by her sweet voice and pure heart. He knew instantly that a girl so kind deserved a beautiful life. Prince Leo gently helped Rose onto his horse, promising to take her to his kingdom, where she would always be safe and cherished. As they rode away into the starry night, Rose finally felt at peace. Meanwhile, back at the old village cottage, Fanny and her mother sat in miserable silence, surrounded by toads. The next morning, Prince Leo and Rose arrived at the royal kingdom. It was not a cold, empty castle, but a warm and lively town filled with music and laughter. The people welcomed Rose with open arms. They did not care about her patched dress, because her bright smile and gentle heart were more precious than any jewel she spoke. Far away, the magic finally forced Fanny to learn a hard lesson. Unable to speak without a toad appearing, she walked back to the forest well, hoping to apologize to the fairy. But the woods were empty. For the first time, Fanny realized that true wealth did not come from silver pitchers or shiny diamonds, but from a kind and generous spirit. Fanny returned to the quiet cottage, forever changed. Her mother still complained, but Fanny stayed silent, no longer wanting to speak cruel words. Instead, she picked up a wooden broom and began to sweep the dusty floors. For the first time, she understood the heavy burden Rose had carried for so long, and she decided to be better. Years passed, and Rose grew into a beloved leader alongside Prince Leo. She never stopped speaking with kindness. Though diamonds and roses still tumbled from her lips, she used the jewels to help the poor and planted the flowers to make the kingdom beautiful. Above all, everyone knew that her greatest magic was simply her wonderful, loving heart. As for Rose, her life was filled with joy and gentle laughter. On quiet evenings, she and Prince Leo would walk near the peaceful forest edge, and sometimes, hidden among the glowing fireflies, a wise fairy would watch them with a proud smile. She knew that the truest magic of all was simply a kind and forgiving heart.